Thank you very much. Once again, welcome Puneet and welcome everyone who have spare time this afternoon. Puneet, well-known name in India, I would say, but I do not have words, Puneet, to introduce yourself. I'll fall short of words, or if I start reading, perhaps 1 hour will go in that. So my request is please take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself, first of all, to the audience.
Surely. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Advocate Puneet Bhasin. Primarily, my area of practice is cyber laws and data protection. Privacy, which comes in data protection, also comes in my ambit, and that's how this entire spectrum of legal framework comes in my domain. I've been practicing in this space for the past 13 years, and we've been among the first few people in this country practicing this law. So it was pretty much redundant at that point of time, and nobody saw the need for it. Today, definitely, it's a very growing space and much.
Puneet,
Hello.
yeah, we lost the voice in between.
Uh, I think I've. Is it clear now?
You were clear, but in between, I think there was a break.
I
So
think
we
I
lost
will have to
last.
leave and join in again because there is some problem. I will just leave and join in again.
All right. Okay. So with apologies to everyone, let's wait for Puneet. In the meanwhile, what we were discussing was different cities that people have joined in from today. What we already know, I'm in Delhi. People are from Mumbai, Amritsar, Pori. Did I miss some place? I believe some people from Chennai as well. Vedi and Arvi, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Great. And you're in Chennai, right?
You're
Anyone
right.
else who is from any other city, just unmute yourself, speak your name and city.
Hello. Am I
Who?
audible now?
Welcome back. Yes, Puneet, clear.
Yeah.
So welcome once again. And first question was, I was saying your affiliations, experience, qualification, etc. is such a long list that I will not be able to do justice. So my request is, please tell us about yourself to start with.
Uh, Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Daman, for inviting me for this session. My area of practice is primarily cyber laws, privacy, and data protection laws for the past 13 years. And we've been practicing in this space in India and abroad too. And it's definitely a growing area. And over back to you.
Thank you very much. Puneet and all, the reason for this session, because I was not aware of, I was struggling myself. So I thought of talking to you. I knew this was your area, but then I thought of arranging it for fellow professionals. Also, this is how this session has been arranged. The issue is these social media platforms versus government of India. About 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when we first talked about this, Puneet, when we were arranging, this was a big issue. While in last maybe a week or so, I have not seen this in the media once again. So I'm not well informed. I'm not an expert in cyber security or information security at all. So there are some questions in mind which I would like to put to you. And the first question comes to mind is, what is an intermediary? This was a new term with respect to social media platforms to me. Intermediary in the past for insurance business, for example, I would have heard, I would have understood, but this was something new to me. So that's the first question that comes to mind. Puneet, can you hear me? Puneet, can you hear me?
Yes.
But she's logged in. Puneet, you're on mute, sorry. Puneet, you are on mute if you are speaking.
बॉक्स अंदर लगाना है और ये इसका कुछ करो यार, तो बिल्कुल ही सिग्नल नहीं
Go on mute, please. I think she had to log out again, so we'll wait. My apologies for the interruptions. So Sheil, can you go on mute, please? Okay, in the meanwhile, I believe there are some experts in the audience also. I wouldn't mind if one of you would like to unmute and throw some light on this point. What is an intermediary, or why are they called intermediaries? Anyone who would like to speak, please unmute. And let me attempt to call Puneet also. Can you hear us now, Puneet?
Yes, yes.
Great.
You're audible now.
Yeah. So the question was, why and how are these people or these guys or these companies called intermediaries? What does that mean in this context?
Well, actually, the concept of intermediary has been there from when we had the intermediary guidelines, which were drafted in the year 2011. They were enacted. But there wasn't a form of strict enforcement with respect to intermediary guidelines that happened in India. So an intermediary basically is any body which is acting in between with respect to any data. For example, today, if I am posting a data on a platform and somebody else is reading it over there, so the platform is not creating the data itself. It is merely like a publication site, or it is some place where it is being posted, displayed for public at large. So that's an intermediary.
Okay.
Now, the intermediary guidelines in India has also undergone a lot of changes. Like prior to 2011, intermediaries were responsible for any and every content under the Information Technology Act, which was posted on their platforms.
Okay.
Now, intermediaries don't only mean social media sites, they also include cyber cafes, they include any organization which is handling data in the middle.
Okay.
So your internet service providers are intermediaries. Mobile service providers today are providing you internet services. They are also intermediaries. So the list is huge.
All right.
Your online news portals are intermediary. Anything and everything practically today which is offering you online services is an intermediary.
Okay.
And it's going to come under this ambit. So it's important to understand we are not only talking about social media sites. So prior to 2011, these intermediary platforms were liable for every content which was there or any activity which happened from a user's end. So
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody is aware of the Bhasin.com case where Avinash Bajaj had to spend his time in prison for the Delhi MMS video which was posted on his platform for sale. Now, in such a situation, the law of the land at that point of time was such that he was penalized for the same. Now, Section 79 underwent amendment thereafter, where there was a exclusion provision added, wherein if the platform is not themselves posting the content, not verifying, going through the content, is then they're not responsible for the content. So if they're just like messengers, then they're not responsible.
Okay.
So it was on that basis that you see the intermediary guidelines of 2011 enacted, and the guidelines basically were not very stringent.
Okay.
And a lot of intermediaries, for that matter of fact, never even complied. When you're talking about the 2021 rules,
So
those are
hold on,
definitely strict.
hold on, Puneet.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the next question in mind. But while listening to you for the first question, 2 points came to mind, which again I'm admitting I'm not an expert in this area and I did not know. So I'm taking myself to be a common man in the country. So I understand there was some, or there are something called intermediary guidelines, right?
Yes.
And this term is not new. Intermediaries term is not new in this context,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, in between, then I also, again, it's whatever is in the media, right? Google said that I'm not that. I'm not an intermediary.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any views around that also? Is that right, wrong, understanding,
Uh, well,
perception?
today anybody and everybody can say I am an intermediary or not. But as per law, see, for example, if they are hosting a website, they're offering you a service in the middle, they are an intermediary.
Okay.
When they're offering advertisements to other platforms or other businesses which you are viewing, it is an intermediary service.
Okay.
Practically anything and everything is coming within the definition of an intermediary. Even an email service provider is an intermediary.
All right.
So
And
just somebody saying we are not an intermediary does not disqualify them from that category. They, any which case, are as per the law going to come.
okay. And these are guidelines, right? These are not rules.
No, these are guidelines which under the Information Technology Act can be penalized. So non-compliance is an offense.
Is an offense.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. So the question, I think I interrupted you. My apologies for that. If what I ask is not what you are saying, then please continue with that, finish that discussion, and then I'll ask my question once again. What came to mind was, what is the real issue with them in India and with government of India? I mean to say,
See, the major issue over here has been, if you see, one of the main reasons why jurisprudence in cyber laws could not develop over a period of time in India, and so many cases are pending investigation also. So when we are talking about there being no form of conviction or acquittal in these matters, one of the key reasons is because of a lack of availability of data in investigation.
okay,
So when the police or any department is reaching out to the intermediaries, especially if they're not intermediaries having an office in India,
all right,
there is a standard response that we are regulated by the laws of so and so country and you need a court order from that country.
all right,
So many times the court order of your own country also doesn't suffice. So it's at the whims and fancies of these companies that sometimes they may comply to an order of the police or to the court in India, or they may simply, if they don't wish to share, say that we are regulated by the laws of Scandinavia, United States, and as per that law, you have to get an order over there.
all right,
So the entire process of any form of investigation or conviction is like a practical impossibility.
all right,
It's all based on whether or not these companies provide the data.
okay,
Now, that is one of the reasons why the Indian Data Protection Bill, also, which was to be enacted, had the concept of data sovereignty, wherein you see that it was put in that all these companies who are processing Indian data should be having an office here and process data in India, maintain a backup in India.
right,
Now, that was something which was obviously unacceptable to almost all these companies.
mm-hmm.
So I would say the Indian government has gone ahead with the intermediary guidelines, and the same thing which was not acceptable in the draft bill of the personal data protection draft bill has been added into the intermediary guidelines. So indirectly, all these companies will have to maintain a presence in India, 3 officers in India, grievance redressal office, etc., which
Okay,
will mean that they have an Indian establishment, which till now they were refusing to have,
right,
and they will be brought under the compliance of Indian law. And yes, they will have to provide data to the Indian government and law
okay,
enforcement agencies.
okay,
The second angle, which is there, is a taxation angle, which probably a CA would be able to highlight a lot more on.
okay,
That as long as these organizations don't have a permanent establishment in India, they are exempt from paying taxes in India.
all
And mostly they are taxed in the parent country of incorporation.
right,
So that is another angle wherein if they are going to end up having a permanent establishment in India, then yes, they will have to pay taxes to the Indian government and to India. So all these things are going to come about. So even under the personal data protection, one of the reasons there was an issue is because would have to set up data centers. They would have to have data management in India, which would mean
Okay.
not just a ancillary subsidiary office, but a permanent establishment, which would have to be formulated in India.
Okay. Okay. So with this, it seems to me, Puneet, that next session I need to arrange with a CA, but I'm getting a sense, and please let me know if that's correct sense or not, that the whole issue is then about paying the taxes in India.
Basically, our own data was not accessible. Here, the data being accessible is also something which is not maybe acceptable to a lot of organizations.
Okay.
Because they have to maintain that much of data transparency now. So they have to invest a lot more in data management. See, till date, you have no idea what are they doing with your data. Right now, if they have to provide any and every data, which means they need to have a very transparent internal data process to provide this back to a user or to the law enforcement.
Okay. So again, I would think, Puneet, that they would have been doing all that, but they were not doing it in India. They were not sharing it with India. That could be the challenge. Not that they would have to do a lot more extra now. Right?
See, in India, they haven't been implementing this. Abroad, probably they would have. So there they are adhering to standards like GDPR, etc. for the European Union.
Right.
But when you're talking about India, we do that. What I mean is that implementation of standards for Indians has never been there.
Okay.
So the concept of consent, the concept of all of this has not been there. So
All
for these organizations, definitely this is like the first news around the neck. Because after this, the Indian Data Protection Bill is coming in. So this is like the first news. First, you have an office here. Now you give us the data here. And then after that, obviously, you are going to comply with all the Indian standards. You're going to take consent from a data user. You are going to do all of this. So this is like slowly tightening the noose. So that's what I think these organizations are feeling that. That so many years they had a free hand in operations.
Right.
And today this is like the first tightening, and it's going to increase over a period of time.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. Before I move on, just for the information, you know this, all of you know this, the session has been brought to you through IEEE Delhi section and the Computer Society chapter of IEEE Delhi section. So I need to know how many IEEE members are present here. So a poll coming up in front of you. Just answer that for me, please. Are you an IEEE member? May I request everyone to put your finger, please, on the keyboard? Only 60% people have responded so far. But in the interest of time, because so that we get maximum from our expert this afternoon from Puneet, I would like to stop the poll now. Just to share the results, it seems there are 5 IEEE members here out of those who have responded. Thank you very much. Moving on then. The next question, Puneet, comes to mind is, do other countries like UK, US, Europe, do other countries also have the same or similar issue? Or is it in India or for with India only?
See, I guess almost all countries have started implementing prior to India. So India has been slow in basically implementing these standards and guidelines. If you see, the EU region has way more strict guidelines with respect to their user data. Right. So India has been slow, and honestly, the reason why a lot of these platforms are, you could say, annoyed with these guidelines, uncomfortable, is because for so many years they had a very free hand. So it was like you could do just anything and everything, and they built a huge market over here in that process.
Right.
Now is when the question after, for example, these organizations have been in India for the last 15, 20 years.
Right.
And they've free hand. It's like today, if you have a child and you tell the child there's nothing called right and wrong, you can do just whatever you want. Right. And then one fine day you tell the kid, you're not going to enter the kitchen, you're not going to touch the gas, you're not going to touch the door, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. Right. So what's that kid going to do? He's going to throw a tantrum. He's going to rebel against this.
I like that.
So in a way, I would say even we are responsible for this as a nation, that we have given them a free hand. Today, we are trying to curb back. Today, we are talking about our privacy. Nobody spoke about this 20 years back. Nobody spoke about this 15 years back, 10 years back. Right. So all these things were happening even then. Everybody knew it. Okay. It's just that there was a blind eye turned towards it then. Today, suddenly everybody is wanting to take action.
All
So
right.
they're also getting annoyed as to why now suddenly, when we've had a free handout here, we've been doing business, we've been growing our business, we've invested so much, and why now suddenly?
Right, right. Okay, thank you very much. A quick time check also. Around 25 minutes gone. We had some delay in the beginning, so if you all do not mind, I will request we extend about 5-10 minutes so that we once again get the maximum benefit from the expert that we have invited today. We'll see. My request registered with you all already, and also I had said e coffee with Daman. So if you wouldn't mind, all of you, you can have a sip also. And at the end, I'll request you all to switch on cameras. I would like to take a picture also, if possible, with your cups. But the next question that comes to mind is, who has created this issue? Is it the intermediaries or the government of India or we, the people of India? Who has created this issue?
Oh, well, I would say it's a whole combined combination. The issue is a issue which has been there, as I mentioned to you, long before. So we as individuals are responsible because we never asked for our right to privacy. It was always there. We always knew that. For example, I'll just give you a simple example. Everybody last year was going berserk over WhatsApp is going to take my data. I need to
Yes.
quickly stop going off WhatsApp. I need to go on a different platform.
Yes.
Now, WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, Instagram. You are sharing all your data out there. But
Right.
suddenly you're so worried about WhatsApp taking your data.
Right.
So the ignorance of users, that is one of the major issues, that for so many years the users have been okay with sharing their data. Today you are having a problem with WhatsApp, but you're sharing your data with Instagram, you're sharing your data with Facebook, and
Right.
all of it, how is it different? Facebook owns WhatsApp too.
Right.
So when you're talking about this, that lack of understanding in the people is something which is the major cause. I would say people and their ignorance is one of the major reasons why this entire situation has come. Yes, with respect to the organizations and intermediaries, the reason that they don't understand, see, Indian laws also in the IT space have been complacent. So when in 2011 the intermediary guidelines were enacted, the Information Technology Act had heavy penalizations for data breaches, etc. But till date, none of these companies, even if there have been multiple cases of data breaches, they have also been cases where their data has been hacked, user database has been publicly available, but
Right.
they have not been the book under Section 43 of the Information Technology Act to pay 5 crores of penalty, saying that you failed to protect the data of so and so person or so and so class of people.
Right.
So basically, over 15-20 years, there's an absolute complacency. Nothing has happened. So what happens? So there is a law, but nothing happens under it. So what does an individual realize? Okay, it's just there for the sake of it.
All right.
The same happened in February when the intermediary rules were enacted. 2021 rules were enacted because nobody took it seriously. They were like, okay, this is just like the guidelines of 2011. This is like the IT Act, and it's just going to continue. This is just another piece of legislation.
Okay.
So I'm pretty much sure that the action of the government giving them a warning that if you don't comply and why within those 3 months you have not complied would have come as a shocker to them,
All right.
because this is what happened before.
Mhm. Right. So one point is this is not new. It is way back 2011. It's only perhaps this government attempted to take actions, maybe make it more
Yes.
something like that.
Yes.
Okay. So
So
so so,
nobody
so
has really taken action against them.
all right. Okay. Thank you very much. Next question, which Puneet is especially to someone like me. I'm repeating, I'm not expert on cybersecurity. I'm not an expert in privacy. I'm not an expert in information security. So people like me, this is a very important question. How am I impacted by this issue, whole issue? How am I impacted as a common man in India?
Well, as a common man, I think you should be very happy about the intermediary rules of 2021, because till date, there was no form of redressal available to an individual. So it's very strange when I hear a lot of discussions which are talking about how the government is going to misuse your data and how this is going to be used to control you, your information. Honestly, see, all these intermediaries are already having your information and it's available for sale. Almost everybody is aware.
That's what I
So
understood.
multiple
Yes.
intermediaries are using your data in multiple platforms, and you are so scared about your own government gaining access to data, and that too conditional access, which is if there is any anti-national activity, if there is anything of this nature which is threatening the country, or if there is fake news for
Right.
the originator of the message. So they are not taking entire chat history. They are only taking data of the originator of that particular message
Right.
from the platform. And for that, there is so much of a question of whether that would be a privacy breach, and individuals are questioning all of that. So the major problem, I guess, in India is lack of an educated opinion.
All
So
right.
people jump to conclusions very fast
Right.
without a full understanding of what is it exactly in the offering. So in the entire thing, if you're going to come to realize that the rules are going to offer you a grievance redressal mechanism, whereby at a first level, if there is content which is, let's say, pornographic content, which is abusive content, which is of the nature which can be defamatory for you,
Right.
this content, the platform on your putting a complaint itself has to pull it off.
Right.
So today, what happens in case of content like revenge porn, etc., you have to go to the police station, take a court order. Thereafter, such content. So by that time, the damage is already done.
Okay.
This is actually giving you a mechanism where for such content, immediate action has to be taken by a platform in order to pull it down. An intermediary cannot really say that I'm not going to act. The second level of grievance redressal, if you're not satisfied with what the intermediary is giving you a reason for not taking action, at a second level, you can question the intermediary.
All right.
There are nodal officers, there are compliance officers who have to, of the intermediary, who have to look into your complaint. There is a fixed timeline. They can't say, I'm going to respond to you after 1 month.
Right.
Within some hours, they have to respond.
Mm-hmm.
So that pressure is there on them to comply and do things in a fast manner. And obviously, yes, the final level of grievance redressal is where a representative of the intermediaries has to participate monthly or every 45 days in the meeting with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting.
Okay.
So that there is a control on what they are broadcasting. So today, if you see, especially during the COVID times, amount of posts going on Facebook, WhatsApp about all sorts of treatments for COVID, all sorts of information. So for a common man who believes everything that comes on his messenger, who believes everything that Google says,
Yes.
people have also self-medicated themselves and gotten hospitalized in the process.
Yes.
So
We know some
it's very important that today, when these platforms are so powerful in disseminating information, so every month they have to have a ministry meeting with the ministry, whereby there is a certain regulation on what are they doing. Now the whole thing is misconceived as, oh, the entire media is going to be controlled. Till now, media on channels was controlled and print media was controlled, and now even social media will be controlled.
Right.
See, you need to get that. The point is, there is too much of aspersion and aversion towards the government kind of a idea.
Right.
So if you see that there is so much of apprehension that, oh, they're going to do something wrong. So the second side of it, if you see why this entire thing is being promoted, is because of the kind of information today that is percolating. Today, for young people, see, adults to some extent may be able to differentiate between fake and proper news.
Big
But
question mark. Big question mark, Puneet.
Yes, even adults are facing a problem. You can imagine today you have young children from the age of 12 to 13 years who are having cell phones.
Right.
They have no idea. And whatever they are being exposed to on this platform, today Facebook says it, they believe it. Google says it, this is the actual mantra of life.
Yes.
So there has to be some level of at least control of what is correct, what is not correct, what information can be promoted, should not be promoted.
Right. Great. Thank you very much, Puneet. Vijay, Devnath, I see hand is up. If it's for a question, please do not mind, but keep it for the end. Type in the chat box, and I'll attempt to pick up the questions at the end. Moving on to the next question. The last one was about me, the common man. Now the next one is about me, the professional. So how am I impacted as a professional in my company because of this issue that is going on?
Well, if you are working in any company which falls under the category of intermediary, which today, believe me, 90% of the companies who are providing any service out are going to come in this category.
All right.
then all these organizations will be coming under the ambit, and you will have to start preparing and actually complying. So your time actually of preparation is also gone. You will have to be compliant with the intermediary law of the country. It's very important that you are compliant with the T, because the penalties are absolutely high under the Information Technology Act in case of you failing to protect the data. So if you are looking at the government taking action on non-compliance right now, so you can imagine if something goes wrong, the penalizations are also going to come forth. So till now, probably it was EU, United States, these countries which were taking these organizations to task and enforcing this. And now I would say even India has started to move in that direction.
Okay. Okay. So we appreciate that. Great. Thank you very much. Next question, Puneet, that comes to mind is, so what are the possibilities for both parties? So intermediaries and the government of India. What are the possibilities for both parties and what are the impacts?
The possibility is now, first of all, if you see for both the parties, whether it may be for data users and for organizations, the possibilities for data users is that, the amount of litigation, approach to courts, etc., in case of wrongful content is reduced. Because prima facie, at the first level, there is a law which already tells these platforms, if there is content which is of this nature, you need to pull it down. There is no questions asked there. Then thereafter, if they're still refusing to, there is a second level mechanism of their organization itself where there has to be a justification provided for why they're not doing it. So it's not simply going to be as per that, as per my organization's policy, I'm not going to remove this data. As per my organization's policy, I'm going to put up this data. So it's not as per their company policy now. It's going to be as per the law of the land now. So for example, till now, if you saw the data practices with respect to the intermediaries was with respect, for example, Facebook had their own data policy.
Okay.
Google has its own policy. Twitter has its own policy.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is why the entire issue has come even with Twitter and Nigeria. If you see wherein the case that happened about where temporarily they had pulled down the tweet of the Nigerian president. So basically, Nigeria has a law of land governing the intermediaries, and Twitter exercised its right as per its own policies. So what the Indian government in February 2021 has done is, okay, you may have any policy. Your policy has to be aligned with the law of the land, that is Indian law, if you want to provide services into India. And in my opinion, that is absolutely fair. Today, if somebody wants to provide services into my country, they have to adhere with the laws of my land.
Right.
They cannot have their own policies, their own laws, which are above the law of the country itself. So today, if there is a violation, what is the use of going to court also? The court is going to determine issues as per the law of the land, not as per a company's policies.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Puneet, I'm reflecting upon a couple of points before I go to the next question. That there is lack of educated opinion for we the citizens. That's what a point you made. Second point, that these companies, the intermediaries, need to respond within very short time period. That is a requirement in the law or in the guidelines, which is not wrong based on the fact that those questions, those issues being discussed may be with respect to the national security. Am I right? That's why the government is expecting very quick responses in such cases.
Yes.
Okay. Third point, which is not so good about myself, I'm admitting. When it came to GDPR, penalties are clear. If you ask me a question now, then can you tell me what are the penalties? I will not be able to, right? But I know it's written somewhere. I will be able to dig it very soon, very easily. But you said penalties are high even in India with respect to this, these guidelines or the act. But we don't know what are those penalties. That's not good, isn't it? We know about the GDPR, but we don't know about the Indian law. And I'm saying me, right? But what are those? Do we know? Are these easily available, like GDPR penalties?
Yes, definitely they are available, provided you're willing to take a recourse and a redressal. So in India also, there are multiple data breaches that have happened till date. Nobody has gone about filing a case to even recover the money. So if this was United States of America, by now you would have seen, there is a concept, even if the pizza topping that you ordered is not matching your pizza topping of what it was, you're going to be sued as an organization. In India, that really doesn't happen. So here, the biggest of data breaches may happen, but there would be nobody who is going to contest or nobody who is going to file for the compensation.
Okay.
So there was a very simple example. I'm sure many of you would be aware of the case wherein McDonald's was sued for hot coffee which fell on a lady. So what had happened is she had, why do you see that hot? Now everybody knows you're buying coffee and it is hot. So why do they still put a red sticker over there? And why do they put that carton kind of a thing outside when the cup is already heat proof? Now, what exactly had happened was that a lady had bought a cup of coffee and she was driving. She had kept it between her legs while driving and putting the gear, and obviously it toppled. It was very hot. She suffered burns, and she sued McDonald's saying that I was not intimated that it was too hot.
Okay.
And she actually won the case.
Oh.
She was awarded a compensation. Now
Right.
we are talking of a population which is so extreme about their rights.
Right.
Whereas in India, we are absolutely behind. We don't care, especially again because of the litigation costs. People are not willing to, first of all, because you would have to invest that money. The question
one
of a
of those,
compensation is
I'm
going to come
admitting,
much later.
I'm one of those admitting that perhaps even if I have some issue, I would attempt to or intend to avoid going to the court or going to the police station.
Yes. So we are talking of a population also which is drastically different. So imagine somebody, because the cup does not mention it is too hot, knowing you bought hot coffee, it's not going to be cold, obviously. But
Yeah.
there is a responsibility of a seller that it has to be well intimated about what the content or how it would be accepted. And here in India, there are multiple data breaches. We have a law in place that obviously in case a platform fails to protect your data, they can be penalized for up to 5 crores per individual data breach, which is a very huge amount per
Right.
person, the number of people breached. There's no cap on this amount also.
Okay.
But there has been no case in India which has really been filed with respect to such data breaches.
Okay.
So the Indian mindset, aversion towards the police, going to the police stations, aversion towards going to court, aversion to taking action, that's one of the key reasons.
Okay. Thanks, Puneet. Earlier, I had asked the question, how am I impacted as a common man? And you explained it very well. At that time, another question came into mind, which was not pre-planned once again. Any action to be taken by me immediately, a common man?
Pardon?
Any action to be taken by me immediately, a common man?
As a common man, under the intermediary guidelines, there isn't any action that you need to take. As an organization, yes, you need to wake up and start doing your work in compliance with the law. Whereas as an individual, I think you should just sit back and relax. You have the power in your hand. You are being treated like a data subject who is powerful with respect to what data is being displayed by them, by any platform about you, or any third party posting data about you. So I think you just need to sit back and obviously see, expecting that the law is going to be perfect at its first stance. In India, we've never had laws enforcing data protection. So as and when that happens, yes, I'm sure it will go through a lot of amendments. So it's important not to have too much of negativity or aversions towards what is the government planning to do. Instead, we need to look at it from the perspective, how is it that this can benefit a data subject? And yes, if there are certain parts of it which, let's say, over 6 months or a year, prove that they are not good enough, then they can be amended by the courts. Courts can also lay questions upon it when people file PILs. The legislature can amend these also. So all these things can happen.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Another follow-up question from the following question, which was how am I impacted as a professional in a company? And I recollect you answered this question as if I'm an employee in one of those intermediary companies. So the follow-up question is, what about the remaining organizations? Intermediaries, I thought 3, 4, but I understand now maybe could be 100 and thousands. But other companies are perhaps millions even in India. So professionals in those companies, are we impacted?
See, those who are not intermediaries currently would not be impacted to that extent.
Okay.
Yes, but wherein they are providing services, saving data of individuals, collecting data, then under 43A, yes, under the Information Technology Act, they were always liable. So that category was always there. It's just that, okay, there wasn't a strong enforcement. And yes, when the Indian data protection law comes into place, I guess every single organization will have to get up, wake up, and change their business practice completely. Because it's not just data practice, it's your business practice which is revolving around this data, which will have to be realigned to ensure that a data subject is the king. His data is protected. He is informed. So suddenly the whole dynamic shifts. Today, it's all about your organizational benefit, and then it will change to a data subject's benefit, and your organization can profit in the process.
Good. Thank you very much, Puneet. Again, another question which was not in the list, but it comes to mind now. Long ago, the understanding of perception, and once again, I'm saying a person like me, understanding of perception was that if some pornographic, obscene, illegal material was found on my laptop, official laptop, then it wouldn't be me, but the CEO who would go into jail. If a data leak happens because of me, I steal data, who will be responsible, who will be penalized, etc., etc., me or the CEO? Anything on that? Or is this question making any sense or not? Not at all.
No, actually, because I did not understand what is the me and the CEO. So are you referring to yourself as the organization? So I didn't understand the question.
Me, the employee, sorry. Me, the employee. Anything found which was not legal, any illegal item found on my laptop, official laptop, then CEO would go to jail, not me. That was the perception or understanding.
Yeah.
Maybe that was wrong. So if now me, the employee, once again, employee steals the data, leaks the data, who would be held responsible? The employee, me, or the CEO?
The criminal liability is going to lie on the employee coupled with the organization, because the organization can also be held liable for the act of an employee who's acting as an agent of the organization.
Okay.
So the criminal liability is going to lie on the individual committing the offense and the organization. The compensation liability also lies with the individual, and primarily again on the organization, because from an individual, there is a limitation. With the individual, the question that is going to come under section 43A is what is the steps taken by an organization to protect the data of an individual. So a lot of that compensation liability is going to come on the organization.
Okay. Okay, questions, last two questions in my list, Puneet. Do I need to worry about any message that I receive or forward? And once again, this may be a fake message or understanding, incorrect understanding. For a couple of years, there was an understanding that the group admin would be held responsible. But in recent, maybe a month or so, again, a viral message, I'm not sure about the authenticity of that, that now onwards, group admins wouldn't be responsible. So question like that, do I need to worry about any message that I receive or forward?
See, you do not need to worry per se about any message that you receive or forward. Yes, if you are promoting fake news, you are inciting violence, causing that, etc. So let's say today there is a news article that you receive, which may be true, may not be true, and you have forwarded that out to 100 further people, let's say in your society, and that has led to a communal issue or a riot in your society, then yes, you are responsible. You are the person who has abetted that offense. So when the investigation will happen, you are going to be tracked back, and you will be the main person who has forwarded this to 10 people, which has led to violence. So if I look at it from a criminal law standpoint, yes, you are responsible for abetment of that.
So I didn't
there
write
you
that.
are. So wherein, let's say there isn't, where you're talking of incitement of violence, anti-national activities, those kind of things are very serious. So there, any person who is abetting the offense is tracked back. So that is irrespective of whether intermediary guidelines existed or not. This was any which case there. They were any which case going to investigate who is the person who has instigated this problem in so-and-so area.
Okay, so I didn't write that message. I received it from someone somewhere. I just forwarded it. Perhaps I didn't even understand that it would incite riots. I didn't mean to incite the riots. I just forwarded the message. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
I couldn't hear you.
Sorry. So I'm saying, in continuation to this discussion, the last question, I received the message. I didn't write the message. I received it and I forwarded it. I didn't even understand that it would incite riots. Would I still be?
Well, you need to understand, under the criminal law, which may be the Indian Penal Code, yes, mens rea and intention matters. Under the information technology law, there isn't a mention of mens rea, which means an action of unauthorized access, an action of a violation of the law or anything. which is a violation of the Information Technology Act, does not have to have the intention coming into play, which has to be proved.
Okay.
So there haven't been such cases. So there isn't jurisprudence in this area for that matter of fact. But yes, these situations can come and these questions of law will arise. So it's very important to be, see, right now, nobody can penalize you for what is it that you are forwarding unless it is causing a damage of a very huge proportion and you are traced back to it. So yes, the first originator of a message who has created such a fake news, that person is definitely penalized. In the event in your organization, or let's say you have forwarded a message in your organization, in your building, it has led to communal violence.
Right.
You are not the person who will be held responsible as the person committing that main offense. Yes, but you have abetted the offense, which means if you had not forwarded it, the offense would not have gone further.
Okay. Thanks, Puneet. The last one. Would you advocate leaving all these platforms?
I don't think it would be sensible also to leave all these platforms.
We can't
It's
survive
important.
without these.
Yes, it's important to know how to use these platforms sensibly. So it's as simple as that. If you don't want this your data to be misused by these parties, then please don't share such data with.
Right.
If you are also
As simple as
storing
that.
such data on your devices, which is data which can be misused, the chances are not just these social media applications, but any other application on your phone can gain access to that data and can misuse that data. So a lot of things lie in your hand. So if you're going to use these platforms, if you use them sensibly,
Right.
I don't think there is an issue. The problem comes when we are not using the platforms in a rightful manner. So even on WhatsApp, let's say we are forwarding out 10 things to 10 people without ever checking the veracity.
Right.
We are trying to be information spreaders. We are trying to do all these things without checking the bona fides. So
Okay.
let's say today we are forwarding a link of Times of India.
Right.
Yes, that is a newspaper which can be backtracked and there is a veracity.
Right.
Okay, there is something, they are governed by the broadcasting ministry. They have to adhere to certain standards before publishing some information.
All right.
Today, if I'm promoting and forwarding information of some random YouTube channel, some random newspaper, which I had no idea, is it even a registered newspaper or not? Then it's my responsibility. As a user, I can't shun responsibility that, I'm going to forward 150 links to anybody and everybody, and they need to figure out whether it's true or not. So if everybody is educated about what they wish to read, what they wish to spread,
Right.
see, you cannot say, I'm not responsible, I don't know what I was spreading. Now, if you know you were forwarding a link of a newspaper which is not registered, of some random YouTube news channel, which is not even a news channel registered under, again, the ministry, then you definitely know the chances of that information being false is there.
All right.
So you can't say, I did not know and I have been forwarding such content.
All right. Okay. Great. Thank you very much, Puneet. People, it seems our audience is okay to extend by 10 minutes, but I need to ask you also, especially when you have a young baby with you. Is it okay to
Yeah,
take extra
5 minutes would be fine because in 5 minutes I will
No,
have.
sorry. Thank you very much. Quickly, there are some questions in the chat box. I'll start reading those. You may like to take these as a rapid fire session and quickly, maybe few seconds response to each of those. All right. The first one is from Chitranjan Kajwadkar from Mumbai. He is a very well-known professional. In short, we call him CK in our professional world. He says, today's ET says Twitter declined government orders. Twitter disagreed. So the question is, can government's orders be declined by any entity, or Twitter is well within its right for disagreeing with government orders?
It's as simple as that. It's not a government order per se. It is an order based on the legislature. So there is a legislature of the intermediary law which is in place, and the government order is in compliance with that legislature to which Twitter has to comply. So today, what question you're asking me is, today, if you decide that you want to go and commit a theft and say, I will commit the theft, the government may say you cannot, the police may say you cannot, the law may say you cannot, but I want to commit a theft, it's my life. That is not how it happens. It's the same thing for Twitter.
Right.
They cannot. What is the use of a law of the land if nobody is going to follow it at the end of it? Yes, you have to comply with it. You can file a PIN, you can file a case against it, you can contest it. But till the court doesn't order or say it is not bona fide, you will have to comply.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. While we have another question from CK, but I'll skip that for time being. If we get time, then we'll come back to that. Our next question is from Vijay Devnath. And he says, what about the data leaks or breaches from government agencies?
Mhm. So basically, you want to penalize the government. That is the question.
Can we?
See, you need to
Can the
understand
government be challenged?
data anywhere and everywhere. How much of a data security you implement is not going to be safe. The whole objective is you want to. What question is who will monitor the class one? Now over here, that is a difficult thing to see because yes, the government also, if you see the Indian Data Protection Bill, there has been a lot of again negative information that the government can basically do anything with your data. They are not regulated. There is a framework under which they also need to operate. It is not just at random. And yes, if there is a data breach which can happen in an organization, they will have to prove that they had reasonable security for it. And with respect to the government, now you need to understand with respect to government data, etc. There is something called critical infrastructure and critical infrastructure security, which is maintained by the government, which is with respect to sensitive information, which is held by them. Now, holding and trying to penalize the government, I think nowhere in this world does that really happen because end of the day, they are the body which is representing you. And if you are penalizing them, then you're practically overthrowing the body which is representing you. Yes, you can point out their mistakes. There can be litigation, there can be compliance, but to try to criminally penalize, that is something which has never happened anywhere in the world because it would simply mean that you have a school and you have a principal and if the principal has failed to perform some duty, you wish to hang the principal. That is not how it happens in almost any organized institution. So yes, there can be compliances. There would be a certain framework even the government needs to operate in. Like for example, even right now under the intermediary law, in order to know the first originator of the message, they can put in a notification to the intermediary through a court order. It can be obtained. There is a process. They are not going to get your chat history. But yes, for law enforcement, they will be able to, especially for terrorist activities, they will be able to know the first originator of a message.
Okay.
So that is something which acts as a checks and balances also. The process laid down.
Uh, Puneet, you pressed mute button perhaps by mistake. Yeah, continue.
Yes.
Sorry, Puneet, we missed the last sentence.
Yes. So there is a certain process which is laid down in the law also for a government to access your data. The critical infrastructure which the government has to protect, there are certain guidelines. Now, failure of anything and everything is possible.
Right. Yeah. So that example was very good, Puneet. Principal, for example, principal of a school or a college or university. But I believe as a citizen, my expectation would still be that he or she is hung if he or she has made a mistake. So that wish list still remains, whether there is any example in the world of that type or not, an existing
It would
example.
actually, what tends to happen is when we have a system of a government and people, the whole concept is that they are people, especially in a democracy, they are people elected by you, representing you. Now, whether that's a reality or not, that's a different question. The concept of a government is it is a government of the people, by the people, representing you, and you are supporting them in all their activities because by a majority vote they have come to power.
Okay.
Yes, if they are doing something which is absolutely criminal, intentionally, a data breach is not an intentional act. If they're doing something absolutely intentionally, then the whole concept of impeachment, all of those processes do come in. Where you're talking about a data breach, which can happen to an organization, which can happen to any other body also, which is having the best of cybersecurity.
Okay.
And we have a critical, let's say, if they fail to implement the critical infrastructure framework, then that is something which in litigation can be brought to question.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. While there are a couple of other questions from Vijay, but once again, we'll pick up from other person. And as you were discussing the principal or the college or university, the next one is from Professor Anil from SKIT Jaipur. And he says, or he asks, has government a regulatory body or does government has a regulatory body which makes such make sure compliance to OWASP. I don't know what is OWASP framework. Does government have a regulatory body which makes sure compliance to OWASP framework?
See, regulatory body for compliance, if you're talking about data protection, currently the entire concept of data protection is there is no regulatory body, or there is nobody who's like a class monitor again who's going to check whether you're doing it or not. When something goes wrong is when any law goes into litigation. So when you're talking about whether it may be the Information Technology Act, whether you will talk about the Indian Penal Code, whether you will talk about even the company law for that matter. So when something goes wrong is when people are going to file something, etc., etc. Yes, like an MCA, which is seeing basic compliance and registration, etc., etc. That kind of regulation and data protection, centralized regulation and data protection, cybersecurity is not there in India right now. So for that matter of fact, if you see even in the GDPR, you have information commissioners, etc., only to look into the complaints and offenses, and if there is a concern that is raised that a certain organization is non-compliant.
Okay, thank you very much. Couple of minutes left of the extended time, so perhaps the last one, Puneet. This is from another person, Debarati Rana. What are the user-friendly platforms available for information of breaches and how they are communicated to general public or relevant people?
User-friendly platforms. Now, again, there are multiple platforms which are giving multiple news about all these kinds of information. Right now, if you see in India, for Indian data breaches, there isn't a centralized platform. So one of the things that is promoted by the intermediary guidelines is also breach notification. And whereby if there is any such kind of a thing, there is a notification breach which has to be notified to every data subject. The personal data protection law also has that in place, wherein there has to be reporting, and there in the personal data protection bill, on the site of the regulator itself, these breaches are going to be notified. So there is a data trust score which is accorded based on the trust data practices of an organization. It is computed to give a data trust score which a data subject knows. So today, then you can decide, is this a good platform for me to use or not? And all the data breaches, etc., there is a process under the data protection law, whereby there will be proper broadcasting of breaches, notification, what steps the company has taken with respect to mitigation of actions further, damages further. That is yet to happen. If you would say a legitimate government source which is going to broadcast this, which you can absolutely trust, then that is yet to happen once the law comes into force.
Thank you very much, Puneet. In the interest of time, all participants will have to stop here. Puneet, there are about 5-6 additional questions. I'll attempt to write to you separately, and if you are able to spare time, respond to us, then I'll share those with the audience, people who have joined
Sure,
today.
definitely.
While closing, first of all, thank you very much to you. Thanks a lot, Puneet. You spared time, and it was, I would say, for me, eye-opener. Couple of points I wouldn't have thought. I got responses to all that I had in mind, and actually I have 5-6 additional questions I asked in between. And thanks to you all participants. Without you, this wouldn't be successful. I'm switching off my camera, and if you all, switching off my screen. If you all can switch on cameras, we would like to take a picture. And actually, before that, the last poll that I wanted to do was asking this question: were these discussions useful? You have 3 options, and you may like to respond here on the screen. Yes, yes, I would like to have more information about IEEE membership. And if you're not happy, you can say no also. I'll attempt to improve next time. No one is perfect in this world. That's what I believe. Improvements are always possible. So no is not bad. Thank you very much. This is how you have said a response to this question. So those who are looking forward to information, we'll provide information about IEEE membership. And if you all can switch on your cameras, once again, a request. Not many cameras are on yet. And Puneet, if you could do that, that would be great, actually. And you all can give us the best smiles if you want. I'm going ahead with this. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. At the end, The best, the least that we could do for Puneet is to clap for her. Please do join me and clapping for you all also. Once again, I'm saying without your participation, the session wouldn't be successful. I wanted to say that I'm launching a global survey, global emotional impact assessment survey in a couple of days. I'll write to you all, and my request is please participate. I'm looking at 1,000 responses from all across. Thank you very much. Let's look forward to our next meeting. Thanks a lot. Clap for yourselves. Clap for Puneet once again. Bye bye. Enjoy the rest of the day.